In the beginning there was nothing. Wait, scratch that. In the beginning there were hominins. They lived in Africa. They were hairy, they were hunched over, and they walked on two legs. It's pretty much the definition of what we think of as human today. Except, of course, for that whole walking on two legs thing. Because if our ancestors had been walking on two legs when they first evolved around 6 million years ago, where would we be today? We'd probably still be stuck in Africa. Walking upright, however, meant our ancestors could see farther across the savannah, carry more food and stuff, and travel further and faster. So along with opposable thumbs, this is why humans rather than chimps are the ones who got to build spaceships. Welcome to Boring History, the series that puts the snooze in your zoo. I make videos about history so you can fall asleep too. If you've been watching the news lately, or even just scrolling through social media, you may have picked up on the fact that everything kind of sucks right now. A lot of times it feels like the world is at its worst, but trust me, things have been bad before. Really, really bad. And no matter how bad things get, knowing the full story always helps put things into perspective. Before we start today's episode, I want to take a moment to thank my patrons. The amount of support I've received from all of you has been humbling, and I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me. The oldest undisputed ancestor of modern humans is a species called Australopithecus afarensis. These guys are famous for their ape-like upper body and their distinctly human-like pelvis and legs. Famous, of course, also for one individual, a female nicknamed Lucy, who was discovered in Ethiopia in 1976. Since then, scientists have found a ton of fossils from this species. Lucy herself, by the way, was about 3 feet, 11 inches or 1.8 meters tall and weighed around 110 pounds or 50 kilograms. According to Donald C. Johanson, who led the team that found Lucy, she couldn't have been much better at climbing trees than any other chimpanzee. However, her legs were built for walking upright on two legs, not knuckle walking like a chimp does. Australopithecus afarensis lived between 4 and 2.9 million years ago, meaning they existed for about 1.1 million years. Considering Lucy's height and weight, as well as the available evidence for tools and dietary remains, researchers believe that these early hominins spent a good amount of time climbing trees and used those climbing skills to find food. When they came down from the trees, they relied primarily on walking on two legs. They may have done some knuckle walking, but we can't know for sure because most of the skeletal remains lack the bones that scientists look for to tell if someone knuckle walked. Around the same time and in the same area as Australopithecus afarensis lived another hominin, the famous Kenyanthropus platypus. This guy is an outlier. He only dates back 3.5 million years. He's the reason scientists think this period of time might have been a transitional phase for hominins moving from 4 legs to 2. In 2007, anthropologist John Muster met his namesake when he discovered the partial skull of an adult male in Kenya. His features appeared to be intermediate between apes and later human species. He had a large brow ridge, small canine teeth, and no protruding chin. And while his face resembled that of a chimp, the shape of his skull suggested he could speak. Richard Bodds of the University of Texas at Austin says Kenyanthropus doesn't fit neatly onto the traditional human family tree, but instead could represent an entirely new branch. More discoveries are needed, though, to confirm his status as a new species, let alone a new branch on the family tree. So to recap, we have 2 main contenders for the title of our earliest ancestor. We have Australopithecus afarensis, who probably spent a lot of time in the trees, and Kenyanthropus platypus, who may have been a pivotal step between knuckle walking and walking upright. Interestingly, both species coexisted with several different types of apes. During the early Pleistocene epoch, African apes flourished with multiple species of chimpanzees, bonobos, and gorillas living in the region. At the same time, Australopithecines were living alongside these great apes, evolving into 3 separate species of their own. These 3 species were Australopithecus africanus, Australopithecus garhi, and Australopithecus sediba. Let's take a quick look at each of them. Australopithecus africanus was first discovered in South Africa in 1924. Fossils date back 3.3 to 2.1 million years. And unlike Australopithecus afarensis, this guy lived mostly on the ground. Scientists theorize that this species spent their days digging around for tubers. This diet eventually led to a smaller brain and a lighter skeleton, which is very different from our chunky-brained, barrel-chested selves today. Australopithecus garhi was discovered in Ethiopia in 1999. This species is unique because it's the oldest known species to use tools. These tools weren't super fancy. They were basically just rocks with sharp edges, but it's still a huge deal. Humans and our ancestors have been making and using tools for at least 2.6 million years. But before garhi, Scientists hadn't found any solid evidence that other hominins did the same. Finally, Australopithecus sediba, named for the place where it was discovered, Malapa, which means water that makes life happen in Sotso, was discovered in 2008. It dates back 2 million years and is yet another species that exhibits traits from both earlier and later hominins. It has the curved finger bones that suggest climbing, but a spine that suggests standing upright. Its shoulders and elbow resemble those of a gorilla, while its wrist appears more similar to that of a human. Sediba's hips, knees, and ankles, however, are almost identical to ours. Essentially, this species had ape-like arms and human-like legs. Okay, so what happened next? Where did these various Australopithecines go? Well, according to the current consensus, the 3 Australopithecine species went extinct around 2 million years ago. Some scientists say they simply died out due to competition for resources with other hominin species such as Homo habilis, which evolved around 2.8 million years ago. Homo habilis would be the first species in the genus Homo. The species is known for using Oldowan tools, which were very simple tools made of chopped and flaked stones. While previous research suggested that they lived exclusively in eastern and southern Africa, a recent discovery suggests they may have also inhabited the northern part of the continent. In December 2019, researchers reported finding stone tools in Tunisia that they linked to Homo habilis. If true, this would push their geographic range farther west than previously thought. Homo habilis also had a larger brain than previous hominin species, measuring an average of 610 cubic centimeters compared to 450 to 550 cubic centimeters for the Australopithecines. And while they were still short and stocky, they were taller than the Australopithecines. On average, they stood between 4 feet 3 inches to 4 feet 11 inches. So to summarize, Homo habilis was smarter than the Australopithecines, maybe a little taller, and they used tools. And this is likely why they were more successful. However, it's possible that changing environments may have also played a role. You see, around 2 million years ago, Africa experienced a shift in climate from moist and wooded to drier and more grassland, forcing animals and people to adapt or move away. But while Homo habilis adapted and survived, Australopithecus didn't. And that, my friends, is the dawn of humanity. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. You can also check out my podcast or follow me on social media. I'll see you next time.